Okay, I'm at the Bahia Honda State Park. It's in the Florida Keys, and the name is Bahia, Honda. Most people say Honda, but it's officially pronounced Honda, so it's Bahia Honda State Park. And so I'm just relaxing on the Atlantic side of the Keys, Florida Keys. A nice view, and I'm going to do the editing for my Big Cypress National Preserve video. And so I'm just chilling in the back of my truck, and a little bit about what's in here. I got my batteries to run my refrigerator, which is under the foot of my bed here. And then this is my few little trash bags I keep in here, little grocery bags stuffed full, and then I pull one out and I use that for my trash system. So when I'm outside, I can easily put trash in the bag and from inside, and then eventually those are easy just to throw away when you go to the gas station or whatever. And so it's really an efficient way to do garbage. So this is packed full of grocery bags. Probably have more than I need, but yeah, I just save them up. So there was one hanging out, but it was waving in the wind and it made too much noise, so I stuffed it in there. But yeah, so it's a nice day. It's a little overcast. It's around 70, low 70s. So it's really nice. Yeah, so I'll put together the video here, and I'll pull up a map and show you where the Big Cypress National Preserve is in Florida. Okay, here's a map of the southern portion of Florida, and with the Keys down here and the Big Cypress National Preserve to the north. So currently I am near Marathon Key in the Bahia Honda Key. I'm gonna say it right. In this state park at Sandspur Beach. So that's where I am currently, and the preserve is just north of me up here. So it's a pretty vast chunk of land, and the Everglades National Park is south of that. So combined, it's a massive amount of land that's preserved, which is great. There's also, I'm not sure if it'll show up, but there's a Florida puma preserve also up towards the preserve adjacent to it, so that's great. But there are pumas in Big Cypress as well. So basically it's all pretty remote in the area. There's Everglades City over here, so I was able to go there and get gas and take care of business. There was a little grocery store, and so that was convenient. So I would drive in and out of the park as needed. And then another interesting area down here was Chocolosky Island. So this little island, you could drive out to it, and basically it's a man-made island. The Indians, over thousands of years, hundreds of years, whatever it was, deposited seashells here until it became an island. And so it's fantastic, and you can actually see the seashells around certain areas. I went to the Smallwood store down here. It's a little mom and pop area, and they had a little barbecue going, and you could have fresh mullet down there, which was really good because they're fatty this time of year. So that was quite a treat. So there you can see the seashells along the shoreline. So hard to believe, but yeah, the Indians built that up with just depositing seashells. So it's pretty fascinating history. So that's kind of the layout of where I was for the Big Cypress adventure. And and we'll jump into it. Okay, in this video, because there was so much footage and just different days and whatnot, I'm just going to narrate the video, so it's not a lot of it me talking at the time of filming. But anyway, to start off, this was an anhinga, which is a prevalent bird around Florida, and it's been pretty much everywhere I've been along the coast and down into the Keys. And it's just a superb diver and just excellent at catching fish. It's a greatly designed animal, and this one was just doing its thing and almost showing off at times. This was a little board along a nature trail, so I took a little video of that that had a good explanation of the anhinga and some of their habits. So I was fortunate enough to get some footage of the anhinga actually having caught a fish, and I've seen them catch fish while they're actually in the water and then gulp them down. But I think this particular fish maybe had some spikes on it or spines, and so he took a good 4 or 5 minutes just to beat the hell out of this fish before he threw it up in the air and gulped it down, which also took a bit of time. So they're a little finicky about what they swallow. Looks like there was a great egret that landed. You can see his reflection in the water, curious about the food. So here's another anhinga that was filmed in the loop drive portion of the Big Cypress National Preserve. So you'll see them often just sitting around like this, drying their wings off, because they can't fly too well while their wings are wet. So this was a peculiarity that I saw in the park in some of the waterways. There would just be this bubbling of fish. And so I couldn't quite get to see what they were. But there you go. In the slow-mo, you can see the teeth on the long snout. And so they were coming up, and I think they were eating something. I'm not sure, but upon seeing the teeth and the long snout, I presume they were gar. And then at another point in the park, I came across an area where some larger fish were swimming around, and they were gar. So it was really a nice thing to see. I'd never seen gar, and so they have some beautiful patterns on them, and just a really great looking fish. And from what I understand, they're quite a prehistoric fish. This was I've been calling them plecostomus. I'm not sure of the species of this fish, but it's an algae feeder, so they kind of stay close to the rocks and just kind of scrape the algae off the rocks. So they're vegetarians. And beautiful patterns on them as well. So in this little water area location, I spent quite a bit of time just trying to get a good clear photo of the gar. And here's the quote-unquote plecostomus swimming around. So here's the gar. There were quite a few, and they didn't start to really move around much until the sun got a little bit lower. And then they came a little bit more active. So, and they seem to have a little different coloration. Some are lighter, some are darker. But you could see they're actually quite beautiful. And the swamp water is just wonderfully clear. I'd always thought swamps were kind of murky and kind of muddy water, but a lot of these areas are just crystal clear, just pristine water. It's beautiful. This was a neat location too, because there was nice clear water and then also nice reflections of the vegetation around, which added a little bit of a eye candy. So this is about as close as I was able to get to these gar. And this was another location, a little bigger waterway, and then there were more of these Plecostomus type fish on the rocks. So it's kind of a neat scene. They're like little bats on the rocks, and then the gar were just kind of floating around. So this alligator, we spent quite a bit of time together because he was sitting right next to the hole where the gar were. So I was there maybe a couple, 3 hours trying to get some good footage. There was this bird up in the branches just across the little water area. And I'd been there so long, eventually he just went to sleep. He was not concerned with me, but I had a birder. I showed this footage to them, and they said this was an immature black-crowned night heron. He was a cute little guy. So this particular alligator was in the northern part of the park. I just happened to come across him, and I got out, was checking him out, and he was just a massive alligator. He could have been at least 12 feet, maybe more. It was a big alligator, and he had huge jaws on him there and snaggle tooth. And so this alligator's probably 40 years old plus. And he would shut his eyes. He wasn't too worried about me. But one thing I've learned with the alligators, while in the park, I did see some, there you can see the jowls. But one thing I did learn, I have a little bit more respect about keeping my distance, because I did see 2 very large alligators have a territorial dispute, and this beast can move. You wouldn't think, but I mean, if you're 10 feet away, if that alligator wanted to come at you, it's very likely they could at least scare the hell out of you and maybe even get you. That they're quite quick on the initial burst. So after seeing that, I have a new respect. I mean, it was a big crashing event. I unfortunately didn't get it on film, but yeah, after that, I'm like, okay, I need to keep my distance a little more. And they are quite scared of us at times. So that one I just walked towards, and he crashed off into the water. They don't see us as prey, humans, just because of our profile to them. We don't fit fit what they would think of as prey. So that's why they kind of, a lot of times, just sit there and look at you. This was a nice little butterfly just hanging out with the alligator that jumped in the water. And then as I pan over to the left, again, as we know now, those were all the little gar jumping around. And at times I saw the alligators move about, which is always a fun thing to see. So this one was just in the evening, cruising through a channel. I was lucky to see this little black racer. So I had seen other snakes, but never able to get any footage of them or close enough. They kind of dart off. But this one kind of sat long enough for me to get a little footage. This was a little green heron, and I was pretty lucky to get close enough to it to where I could film it. It has a just beautiful plumage, like a metallic green on it. It's quite a pretty bird, and they're very stealthy how they walk through the water and kind of the aquatic arena there. And their feet are just perfect for climbing around. Yeah, they have really wide spread toes, so they can kind of walk on those areas without sinking down. This is a great egret. You see many of these down in the Everglade area. I decided to film one a little bit. This one had some really nice plumage on it, the little delicate kind of ornamental feathers towards his back end. And then here he's gonna fly off and you'll be able to see it a little better. This is a great blue heron. I've seen these all across the United States. They seem to be a pretty prevalent bird. They're quite pretty as well. This is a little blue heron. And then this was just a quick glimpse of a soft-shell turtle. He had swum by previously, but that was the best I could do, but at least we saw one. This was a fantastic flyby of some sandhill cranes. They are so loud. Just a gorgeous bird, though. They make their presence known. So that was a great thing to see. And this was a stork. I think it's a wood stork is what they call it down here, and I just happened to get a quick filming of one taking off and flying away. So in Florida, this is a great example of some of the limestone that's kind of remaining. I think it's remnants of like old coral reefs and whatnot. But this makes up a lot of the landmass around Florida, the limestone, and it slowly erodes or dissolves with fresh water, rainwater, because rainwater is just slightly acidic. So there's a corrosive effect or an erosion. So in this little area, you could see the limestone clearly. And here we see with the bald cypress some nice knees, as we now know they're called. And there was just, the water's flowing in these swamp areas. So this was just some beautiful algae that was kind of very tranquil to watch. Somewhat mesmerizing. And I have some other footage of some algae as well. So one thing in Florida I've really liked is just all the epiphytes. And this is, I was trying to capture here on all the cypress. You have the epiphytes just hanging all over the place. Here's another anhinga. He was making some interesting sounds. This algae was just so peaceful to watch. And now it's a little time for the black vulture. So down here in Florida, they have the turkey vultures and then the black vulture. So there was a little area, again, where I could get a pretty good scene on capturing some footage of the black vulture. So there was one, he was in the cypress trees here around this water hole. And he was very curious and kind of looking around, and he was up to something. So I just kept watching him. And eventually he made his way down to the water area. And then he started eating what appears to be a dead fish. So as I pan out here, you can see all these white fish carcasses. Some are floating and some had sunk. So a week or more prior, there was a cold spell that came through. And because many of these fish are tropical, occasionally Florida gets a really cold snap. And apparently this was the 5th coldest cold snap in recorded history. So there was a huge fish kill. I mean, just millions of fish died, and so there was all this great food for the vultures and the gators. So all the scavengers pretty much got their fill. So he was just down at this hole. He had something else in his mind. So if you can see below him there's that white fish, pretty good sized one floating around, and so he's trying to get to that fish, and so he eventually figures out how he's gonna do it. So then he jumps over to this other log, and he can get a better angle on somewhere to land so he can access it. So he figured it out. It's a rather awkward bird in some ways. But I really enjoyed filming this just because the scenery and the background and just the whole ambiance of this scene was just awesome. So this was a trail that kind of went off. It was gated, so it was a foot access only. And there was this waterway that you had to cross to go to get to the other side. So there were gators around, but I decided to go for it, and so I did traverse this and then continue because I wanted to go on a path less traveled. And so one thing I did see were these, I think they're cardinal bromeliads. They're beautiful. They have a beautiful flower spike that just turns just like ruby red. So they're quite a pretty bromeliad. So as I was walking along, one thing I did notice were some tracks. And this was a nice bear track, a hind foot track of a bear, and then there was a front paw. So there are bear in the park. And this, I did research later, but this is actually a puma track. So I was very fortunate to see at least a track. I was hoping to see an actual puma, but a track will do. And there's some very distinct indicators, some divots on the back pad that are unique to a puma. So I did verify that. So these actually are Florida puma tracks. There's another track there you can see. So this was fairly overgrown. These tracks are from, there's these buggies. I think you can not rent them, but hire them out. So this is another bear track, a hind foot, and then there's a front paw there you can see. So it was a medium-sized bear that had walked through here. And I think these tracks are fairly fresh because of the tracks, the vehicle tracks. So that's another front paw of a bear. And so on this one, you can see the little kind of divots in the back part of the pad. There's two little kind of pointed divots there. There you can see them as well. And they weren't large, kind of medium-sized paw. It could have been a female. They're a little bit smaller. And then this was a little wetter area, so there were a little bit deeper tracks. But I felt super privileged just to see even tracks of a rare Florida puma. So I'm in a kind of a cypress forest right now, and I did learn that these cypress are deciduous, so they do lose their leaves or leaflets during the winter. So that's why they look the way they do right now. But I think in the summer, this would all be kind of shaded in with these cool trees. But it's beautiful in here. So this is kind of the trail I'm walking down. And it's very pretty in here. Not a lot of traffic in here. Here's another nice footprint. Right there. I think that's a deer up there. My first deer I've seen in Florida. Okay, coming off a little walk. Scared off an egret there. Just have to walk across this waterway. A big gator right there. Okay. Mr. Gator's over there. Looks safe. Okay, that worked out all right. Mr. Gator was right in here. Okay, here we go. And they keep these trail cams along the entryway. I think they track the pumas. Someone's in there. Okay, well that was primarily what I saw in the Big Cypress National Preserve. There was one other animal I did see. It was a snapping turtle, which I think is a bit rare to see unless you're, in the water looking around for them. But it had come out of the water and was crossing the road, so I did get some good footage of it, really close-up footage. But for some reason, I can't find that portion that I took, so I think I might have deleted it by mistake. But anyway, so I did see a snapping turtle as well, in addition to a glimpse of the soft-shell turtle. So anyway, it was a great time there, and beautiful sunsets and terrain, and I might go back there on my way north. And so one other note is, you may have noticed I changed my name slightly on the YouTube channel. So it's Alexander Shares the Wild instead of just Alexander, because it wasn't very easy to find via search. So it comes up very easily now, so at least people can find what I'm doing and enjoy it if they like this type of thing. The Bob Ross kind of wildlife videos. So anyway, till next time, enjoy the sunset.